think about the relationships, play the long game, and you'll be right. And just obviously work hard. But other than that, enjoy life as well. Cheap conveyancing is you get what you pay for. It just leaves people disgruntled, and that's why we've got a broken relationship with the buying market.
All right, we are back for another episode of the Raising the Bar podcast, where we storytell excellence in Queensland property.
Looking forward to this.
I've got an excellent guest here today, Mr. Peter Burgin. Mate, thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure, mate. Appreciate you asking me. I'm very flattered.
I'm glad we got to bring this one to life.
Yeah,
you've been on my hit list for a while, so I'm glad we're here doing it.
That's good, mate. I'll just pretend I'm busy. So.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I'm just going to read straight off this and then we'll get into the fun stuff.
Okay.
Before he ever called a property auction, he was selling heavy machinery in a paddock. Bulldozers, excavators, farm equipment. 6 years of plant and equipment auctioneering, where the rooms are hard, the operators are harder, and there's no script to fall back on. That foundation built one of Queensland's most respected voices in Queensland real estate. 23 years plus, 15,000 plus auctions. That's a lot of numbers, mate. That's a lot of auctions.
Sounds like a lot of good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome.
But legit though, 15,000 plus auctions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. REIQ Auctioneer of the Year. And now, Chief Auctioneer and Head of Performance at Ray White Collective. You're not just calling auctions, you're shaping the performance culture of one of the biggest real estate networks in the country. Today on Raising the Bar, Peter Burgin.
Thank you, George. It's a very kind introduction. You always feel a bit uncomfortable when you hear that stuff, but I guess, you look back over 23 years and the numbers accumulate, and they do. It's a lot, but it's been great. It's been an amazing journey, and I've loved watching the industry change and the people change within it as well.
Oh, mate, I'm keen to hear what you have to say today. I think it's going to be really cool.
Hopefully.
I'm not done yet, though.
No.
Empire Legal has worked alongside some brilliant agents across Brisbane over the years, and Peter, your reputation precedes you. Anyone who spent time in Queensland property would know the name. You were former head of auctions at the Place Estate Agent Group for a long, long time, over 20 years, to now leading one of the best real estate offices in the whole state. Mate, the purpose of this podcast is called Raising the Bar.
Sure.
We want to storytell excellence in Queensland property because the industry deserves better. And we're here to inspire change as well. So these sorts of conversations are there to make our industry better. Okay. And guests that sit in this seat, I believe, have either done that or are on the path to doing that.
Beautiful.
Mate, we're going to kick straight off into the first point, which I learnt a lot in the prep for this about you. I always knew you as Peter Burgin, who was at Place, and now you're running Ray White. But there was a whole nother life before that, wasn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a bit about that. I've got here plant and equipment auctioneering, 6 years of selling heavy machinery before you ever called a home.
Yeah.
Let's hear a bit about that and then maybe transition into maybe what that taught you and how you pivoted into property.
Yeah, perfect. So, that's a long time ago, but it was actually a great part of my life. It was really, really enjoyable. And it wasn't just heavy machinery, it was anything. So I worked for a firm that was engaged by insolvency practitioners. And I guess it's a bit of a negative part of the commercial world where businesses might have been going broke or under financial duress.
Welcome to the Raising the Bar podcast, where we storytell excellence in Queensland property. I'm your host, George Sourris from Empire Legal.
So we would go in and value all of their assets, all of their plant and equipment, not the real estate. And then the insolvency practitioners would try and see if they could trade the company out of, I guess, what would be a difficult situation. But sometimes there's just a reality around the fact that that wasn't possible. And so all of their assets had to be sold off. And that's where we would come in and stand by the valuation and then, I guess, set up and conduct an auction and market that auction right throughout Queensland. So we got to go to some wonderful places, some very, very far and away places out back, met some incredible people in some difficult situations as well. But it's a part of my, I guess, working life that I look back with great fondness. But there was probably always this calling to get into residential real estate, and I was very grateful for the opportunity to hone my auctioneering skills in that environment. It's the same but different. We would do sometimes 1,000 lots a day, and in terms of tempo, you would have to try and keep to 100 lots an hour. So it was very, very fast work.
Almost 2 a minute.
Yeah, so
1.5 a minute.
yeah, because
Wow.
you just otherwise you just weren't going to get through the workload, and you'd split that between different auctioneers. So you go for 2 or 3 hours in a go, and then off you go, and someone else would jump in, you jump back up, and I learned from some wonderful people. So great part of my life, but you know what? It's fairly exhausting, and whilst it was enjoyable, I probably always had this calling to get into residential real estate. It was something I'd thought about doing before I got into that side of the business, but just the path I just didn't get there. So I delayed it, but my career in real estate was better off for having that experience for sure.
Yeah, let's talk about that because it's probably a bit unique, especially for this audience, like talking about
Yeah.
auctioneering, but not in the property space.
Yeah.
Were there some transitional skills that you reckon that you benefited from by doing the auction house stuff first with the plant?
Yeah, absolutely. Because before you would auction the items, you had to value them. So a lot of research went into values, particularly with some tricky machinery. There's some really unique stuff out there that is specific to certain industries. So you had to sort of get your head around that. You had to understand how to get the information that you needed to assess value. And then you went through that marketing process. It's no different to you do with a house. And then you go through this sort of auction process, no different to what you do with a house. And, it either gets to or beyond fair market value, and if it doesn't, then you need to start understanding why, and going through that process of communicating with people who are potentially looking at buying it, and also the people who were selling it, the insolvency practitioners, and then arriving at what would be a fair outcome. So transferable skills, absolutely,
Yes.
but yeah, just a different pace, and I guess a different part of the market.
So, okay, so you're there and you're doing that for about 6 odd years.
Yeah.
And then did you have a calling for real estate? Well, if you look back then, were you like, man, I want to get out
Yeah.
of equipment. I want to auction houses.
Yeah, I did. I always wanted to get in real estate, as I mentioned, so it sort of just was a timing thing. At the time, I was good friends with Paul Curtin from Place. They had just moved Place. It was rebranded PRD in a City East to Place.
Is that now the Balimba office? So the original office?
Yeah. And
Yeah, wow. So you were there from the start.
well, yeah, Balimba and then West End. So I actually started at West End, which was their second office. I think they opened that within 6 months of changing the signage. Paul said, well, mate, what are you doing? Time's right, let's go. And so we did. So that was where I sort of got into it. And I guess I spent the first 3.5 years in real estate as a salesperson who would call the odd auction, because the market didn't have a high volume of auction activity back then.
Yeah.
I mean, you sort of had 1 or 2 every Saturday, and if they couldn't book you for 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock on a Saturday, they'd make it the next week.
Right.
We weren't doing them at 5 and 6 o'clock on Saturday afternoons, or,
It's changed a lot.
it has changed a lot.
Even compared to, say, Sydney or Melbourne, we're still, our volumes are much lower than what happens down south, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it has changed over the years, but and it's good to have been a part of that change. But back then, it wasn't a high volume environment at all. Plus, I wanted to make sure I understood what it was like to be a salesperson, wanted to understand how to prospect for business. I wanted to understand how to process a sale and communicate with our client, all those sorts of things. So it was really, really important that I did that, and balanced, I guess, the two for that first part of my real estate career, and then made that transition into just becoming an auctioneer.
Well, I think that's a really important point that you've just mentioned is the fact that you went through the journey of being a selling agent.
Yeah.
I guess that'd make you a lot more relatable. You'd understand the speed bumps, the objections, all the stuff that is being felt by the seller, the buyer, even the selling agent, with you now as an auctioneer and in a different role with head of growth.
Absolutely.
You've lived through it all, right? You're not in an ivory tower going, oh, I think this is what it is. Like, mate, I've done this. I've been in your shoes, I've been in your shoes, and I've been in your shoes.
Yeah, it gave me credibility with the selling agents, and the selling agents are the ones who have got to live and breathe it on a daily basis, that challenging sale. And back then in the Queensland market, and certainly the Brisbane market, it was not easy. Our market's changed over the years, and it was very, very challenging. So it was great to be a part of that process from start to finish with the agent, as opposed just to rocking up on auction day and being the auctioneer. I never want to be that kind of auctioneer.
Yes.
So, and I've always resisted that.
You're on the journey with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And a resource that's available to them right throughout the course of the that campaign. So
Well, mate, it's funny you say that. I reflect back a few years ago. I was doing a roadshow going around to different real estate offices.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work with Place. And I remember I was at Nunda with Drew and Pat, and then I saw
Yeah.
you there. I'm like, oh, hey, Pete. And then I'm at Kangaroo Point, and I saw you there.
Yeah,
and then I'm
yeah.
at New Farm, and I saw you there. So you really entrench yourself in that part of it. You're right. You're not just roll in, do the auction, roll out. It's not that. You're actually part of the community where you're working.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, that's just been critically important. When I look back, I would not change the way that I approached that. It was really important part of those relationships, which I've had for a very long time now. And also it helped the process along as well. And the clients got value out of it as well. They felt like there was a team behind the sale. It wasn't just one person.
Yeah. You're not this external party. You're actually, you're part of the process.
Absolutely. Someone who cared and they felt that. So it's good.
You said one of my favourite words, relationships.
Yeah.
Which we could probably talk the whole podcast on this.
Yeah.
I truly believe between relationships and trust, that's the secret sauce of business.
Absolutely,
Certainly in our game, at least. Like you work with people that you know, like, and trust.
Absolutely.
And trust is the kicker.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, anyway. Like the empire and the business we build, it all comes on the back of that.
100%. But you're fortunate as the people you meet, as you progress in any industry. And Dane Atherton was a guy that was really critical to the start of my journey. And one of the first things he said to me was this whole auctioneering thing, it's a relationships game. You know, you have to build relationships with people, not artificially, but you have to build proper relationships with people and they will appoint you. They will work with you. And I've never, ever forgotten that.
And for those listeners out there that may not be local, Dane Atherton runs a huge business on the Gold Coast called Coastal.
Yeah.
And he's best in class at what he does.
Yeah, he's once in a generation real estate guy, and I'm fortunate to have had that relationship with him from the beginning as well.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Mate, how do you distinguish a good auction from a bad auction? You've seen all sorts of stuff over the years, right? Like if I'm asking Peter Burgin, mate, how do I get a good auction, and maybe what's some stuff where an auction's not going to be so good?
I guess maybe to simplify that, what would make a bad auction in my eyes? A bad auction would be an auction without preparation. The agent and the auctioneer have to have done the work. They have to have done everything in their power that is humanly possible to try and get as many people through the open homes and as many people from those open homes, converting them into people who have an interest in the property. And that's what our sellers expect of us. So if you get to an auction that doesn't have anybody interested, I can accept that, because sometimes that's just the nature of the market, it's the nature of the property. But if it doesn't have anybody interested because we haven't done the work, that's, to me, that's where we have failed.
So there's a lot of work in the back end to make sure an auction's successful.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just a matter of, there's an old saying, sign up, feed up. In real estate, but you can't do that. I guess in some markets you are blessed where the market will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, but you cannot rely on that. So you've got to do the work.
Yep. So preparation. So on the flip side then, an excellent auction is going to have good prep behind it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just get to the auction and the work's been done. But then the communication with the client has been first class. Communication with buyers has been absolutely at its best. Have they got all the information that they need so they can make an informed decision, or even an impulsive decision if they've seen the property quite late? Sometimes people will just arrive at the auction on the day and go, oh, hang on. And we see more and more of that happening now. So we've got to have that information ready to go so people can make that impulsive decision.
The dark horse, they call them. Don't they?
That's right.
You've had no comms and someone just rocks up, registers and buys a place. And like, what the heck? Like,
absolutely.
Do a quick walkthrough like a minute before the auction and they buy it.
Yeah.
And you've seen that happen?
Oh,
Wild.
I can't tell you.
Wild.
There's people out there at the moment. Brisbane has grown as a city. There's a lot of wealth in our city, and there's a lot of people who believe in the market for the short, medium and long term, and they will make impulsive decisions. They recognise good real estate. It doesn't take you long to work out what's a good property and what's not. And of course, they'll just buy it.
Mate, I believe in the market. I saw the evolution of Camp Hill, Cooperoo. You look at Kangaroo Point and New Farm along the river, what's happened there. And I remember when I started working with the Caulfields, and you're seeing, units go for $6+ million. And people just can't believe it. And I pinch myself going, Brisbane, like what? And for a unit.
George, when I got into real estate, if you had $3 million to spend, you could have taken your pick. You could have bought anything that you wanted to in Brisbane.
Yeah, something unreal.
Whatever. Absolutely. Like there was nothing that wasn't available to you. And now, like I hate to say it, but it can be a bit underwhelming in certain parts of the market. If you want to live in a prime location, $3 million is like, I think you should feel like you've sort of earned the right to buy something really, really nice. But, it's not, that's just the nature of a growing city.
Yeah, correct.
So, yeah.
Correct. So those that were on that train early have done real well. And I think if you're new to the market, it's quite challenging.
Mate, you said these waters were how much? $3 each? No. Or can I just have one on the house?
Mate, it's on the house for you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, mate, I reckon that's a pretty good place to wrap up point one. You with your $3 water.
Pay what though? I didn't bring any money.
I want to switch gears now into maybe misconceptions. We'll go a little bit deeper on what we were talking about before with, like, say, what makes a good auction or what makes a bad auction.
Yeah.
I want to do like a seller's side and a buyer's side. Because again, you've seen like literally thousands and thousands. You've lived through this. Let's start with maybe your vendors in terms of expectations and maybe where vendors have had the wrong expectations.
Sure.
We'll see where that goes.
And that's always a hard one because, like anybody who has sold a property before, there's always a seller's perspective on value. And it should be probably higher than the market because you've lived in a property. You have a different sense of its value, and there's probably some intrinsic value that isn't obvious to the rest of the market as well. And plus, naturally, you want to just make sure you get the best outcome you possibly can. So you can set yourself up for the next purchase as well. We need to understand what the seller's expectation is and then see where that marries up against what we feel that the market will respond to in terms of value. They're two different sources of information, but we need to understand what the vendor's expectation is, and then we need to look at historical data. We also need to look at what's on the market at the moment as well and go, okay, well, you know what, that actually makes sense. And I think this is where sometimes things can become disjointed. The seller's expectation can have logic behind it. It can have foundation, but sometimes the agents don't use that as leverage for buyers to understand why value should sit in a certain range. And they almost leave it to the buyer to suggest what value they think a property's worth.
Yes.
And I think where they start can be very different to where we need them to end up.
I'm with you. There's also another element of, I guess, emotion, right? I just think back, I've sold one property using an auction agent.
Yeah.
And putting myself back in my shoes back then.
Yeah.
I was probably an emotional seller that wanted more. And so that's the common theme that you get is, I think my property is amazing.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. And every vendor probably feels that way, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And they should. That's the way it should be.
Yeah. But it's applying that.
Human nature.
Yeah, true. But everyone thinks their property's awesome, but then it's up to you to, I wouldn't say bring them back down to earth, but it's more so just giving them good data, isn't it? Saying, look, this is, you think your house is worth this much. Yeah. All the other houses in the area that are similar to yours are this much.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do we bridge that gap in terms of what makes yours 200K more than all the comparative ones on the street?
And the one thing I like about auction is where you start with that conversation isn't necessarily where you finish. So if you said to a buyer, where do you think the value of this property sits? And they gave you an indication. If there's a gap between seller expectation and that, well, that's also reasonable because they're a buyer. They're looking through it from a different perspective. They're not, at that point, probably not emotionally attached to the property. But that's just a process that you need to work through with that buyer. And first and foremost, like, you almost park the whole value conversation.
Yes.
Because it's more about getting them attached to the purchase of the property and attached to buying the property.
And then the emotion starts to come into it. Yeah.
Then, so it's having the value conversation is, the right conversation, but too many times we have it at the wrong time. It's almost before we get that connection.
Well, mate, just tell me how much money I need. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
What do you want to use the property for? And sort of help them see how this could be their property.
Let me assure you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I will do as much as I can to assist you in terms of understanding the value of the property as we go through this process. But I really want you to feel sure that it is the right property for you. And I want you to come back and visit the property in the evening. I want you to get a sense of, start growing that attachment with a buyer. So they do, and then the price conversation becomes almost secondary, like you've won the battle before you've even had it.
It's funny you say that. I'm just reflecting on, I've bought one property at auction as well.
Yeah.
And as a buyer,
Yep.
Oh, mate, I was emotionally invested in this property.
Were you really?
Oh, yeah, I wanted that property.
And you didn't want it
It
either.
was,
I bet.
it was north facing. It was exactly where I wanted, and it was in the price point that I thought I could stretch to. And
Yeah.
it's funny. And you're right. Once I sort of dreamed of being in that property,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, can I find another 50K? Can I find another 100K?
Yeah.
You know, can mum and dad help me? Can I borrow some money? You know, you sort of just once you're invested and you want it, it's crazy, isn't it? You feel really differently about it.
Absolutely. And buyers want to have the value conversation on day one, and sometimes agents respond, and it's hard. Buyers can make it difficult for you, but you've got to resist the temptation. Have that conversation, but have it at the right time. Just assure the buyer that you do want to help them through that process. You'll do everything you can to help them understand value. The more information you gather about value through the campaign, you're happy to share that with them. But we want you to make sure it's the right property for you.
Hey guys, just interrupting the show just for a quick second. We're trying to get some more reviews. So whatever platform you're listening on, if you can please give us a review, that'd help us find more people. Okay, back to the show. What I love about what you're talking about, Pete, is the transparency piece as well.
Yeah.
And maybe this feeds into just closing this part out, but you are saying, I will give you the data, I'll give you the information, I'll make sure it's the right property for you. All of the language you're using is the exact kind of person that we want in this chair and that we want out in the market versus the slimy ones that are saying whatever they have to say to sell a property. Less of that and more of this. So I guess that's just an organic theme that's coming through, because if you always put your best foot forward with transparent, trust, all that stuff, it's how you succeed, isn't it?
And buyers will give you more. An open line of communication. If you can develop rapport initially, and then rapport can become trust. And just remember, with trust isn't something you're giving them. No, that's something that they will give to you at the right time, but you've got to earn it.
You've got to earn it, yeah.
But you've got to go through that process with them. And if you do it methodically, people will tell you everything, and you'll convert that relationship from almost an abrasive sort of competitive one to actually, I now want you just to help me purchase this home.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
From a point of negotiation, your client wants you in a position where you have that trust with the purchaser. So when you do ask them for that extra $100,000, you're a better chance at getting it because there is a relationship there.
This is perfect segue, because I wanted to ask you if you could boil it down to, say, on the sale side, what is a mistake that you see commonly made in the auction process, and then on the buyer's side, what is a mistake you commonly see? Is there any in either of those scenarios that sort of bubble to the top that you go, oh, mate, if only buyers just were more honest with me, I could help them get like that? Because I imagine they wouldn't. Every buyer I know in those situations doesn't want to tell you their budget because then they're going to overpay.
No, it's like, and you know what? We've made it too hard for them over the years. I mean, if you surveyed 100% of the buying market and said, how much do you want to share with a real estate agent? Not many would be wanting to share very much at all. The market has evolved over the years, and I think as real estate agents, it's our role to evolve as well.
Yes.
Become more sophisticated in the conversations we're having with people, try and make people feel more comfortable that we are trying to help them. But I think we've still got a fair way to go. We've made it too hard for people. There's too many different methods of sale. I think people understand auction. It's a process that's been around for literally thousands of years, well before you or I were sitting here, as old as we may look. But but people do understand the process, and they understand that there's not a price on the property, and they understand that the seller and the agent have probably made a decision to auction the property because they want the market to help them understand what the realisable value will be. But also then we've got for sale with the price, for sale without a price. We've got price ranges, we've got offers over, we've got top offers, price by negotiation. It's like, if you're a buyer out there, and I don't know if anyone has recently tried to purchase a property, you would rather slam your head in the car door than go through the process that we offer people. And we've just got to get better. We've got to try and give people more information, help them understand value. Nothing more frustrating than scrolling through realestate.com. I'm simple. I just think it probably should either go to auction or it should have a price on it. I know there's a lot of people that'll probably just go, you're an idiot, and that is a simplistic way of saying it. But really, you know what? Let's make it easier for people.
Mate, just to give you the thoughts running through my head right now, I look back at the last time we tried to buy, and I'd like to consider myself probably semi-sophisticated, let's call it, in terms of I live and breathe this stuff. Like I'm on realestate.com every day. We work with hundreds of agents. I'm property mad. Like I live and breathe this stuff. Mate, it is such a punish. I was getting so sick. I knew the pocket we wanted. I was looking. And every time I press that red dot on realestate.com, there's no price. No. And I'm like, man, I'm tapping through 50 dots. And it's like contact agent. And I'm like, man, this is so frustrating. So frustrating. And to your point, such a simplistic solution. Wouldn't it be great if there was like even if the vendor's head's in the clouds, put a price on it and you can negotiate from there.
And if you've got an understanding, if the price is wrong and no one's coming through the home, at least that's a conversation you can have with your client to say, you know what, I don't think we've got this right. We're not aligned. We might need to make an adjustment. But auction exists because it is a good process. It's a neat process. I know it's had its challenges over the years because it's probably been misused a little bit, but in simple, it's a very easy process for a purchaser and also a seller and for the agent as well. People try and complicate it, make it up, but I would rather go to an auction as a buyer than go into a multiple offer situation where the agent's saying to you that I've got other people who are interested, you need to sign a document that says there's a multiple offer and you give me your best offer. By the way, I'm not going to tell you what the next best offer is. Okay, well, I mean, I get that how that might make an agent or a seller feel like you got the best price, but there's no way. If you put me in a multiple offer situation, I'm never going to put my best foot forward. Human nature will not let me do that.
Because you overpay, right? You think,
and I would rather
I'll throw
miss a property.
$100K on top. It's like, man, that's a lot of money you're throwing on top.
Yeah. And I'd rather miss a property than feel like I overpaid.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. But I think the multiple offer thing is torture for buyers. We have to stop it. As an industry, we have to find a better way, because only the winner is, I guess, the seller sells the property. The person who purchases the property wins or feels like they've won, even though they probably hated the process as well. But you know what? The people that missed out, it just leaves people disgruntled. And that's why we've got a broken relationship with the buying market.
On the back of that, my mate's in-laws were relocating from Brisbane down to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And he's a mortgage broker, I'm a property lawyer. They're every Saturday, mate, all around Helensvale area, looking.
It's beautiful water.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We go out to the springs out in the mountains.
Mate, I can imagine. Sorry.
Thanks for appreciating that.
Yeah.
And it was just getting to become a joke. Where every Saturday, I'm like, hey, you guys find anything? Nah, nothing.
Yeah.
I think, man, they hadn't sold and bought in 30 years. You know, this is their like retirement home, and it was such a challenging experience for them. You think, man, and I remember talking to the husband, and he's like, man, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you think, whoa, that sort of sucks. Like,
That's right. But the market changes over time as well, and we've seen that happen in a number of different incarnations. Your process can sometimes look and feel different depending on what sort of market you're in. If you're in a really prosperous market, there's a lot of buyer activity. You don't have to look very far back, only a matter of months ago, where it was very competitive to purchase properties. And there's been a slight change to that, but the market's still great. But you know what? It was hard to determine what a property would sell for. It was really hard to guide people in that space. Auction was fantastic because people would compete, and they love competing where they can see where the nearest competitor's at. But where you have a change in market and maybe there's less buyers, we still want to use the process of auction because the buyer has confidence in it. You can certainly understand firsthand what the volume of activity for the property is like for the market. If it's great, fantastic, you might have a competitive auction, but sometimes these auctions might have one or two buyers and it becomes more of a negotiation. But from the seller's point of view, the job's done. And from the buyer's point of view is that they went through a process that they understood, where they had a high level of communication and transparency as well.
Is it fair to say, and I believe this, just keen to hear your thoughts, the true test of the market value of a property should be what happens at the auction?
To a point, but
does it depend on the market?
We've got examples of properties at the moment that are going to auction and people are saying to us exactly that on the day. But you know what? We've got 1, 2 or 3 people sometimes who might not have been in a position to meet auction terms that genuinely want to purchase the home, that have been talking numbers higher than what's been on offer on the day.
This is the magic. This is the magic right now.
Yeah,
cool. So this is where you come in as an expert.
Well, so this is where the buyer at the auction who was registered a bid and was like, well, where is everyone else? Here's the market. The seller's got to accept it. You're like, it's not that simple.
Like, mate,
Here's a part of the market. Here's the cash market. But our reality is we've got people who are going to do a lot more to get this property than what you are.
So in that instance, you'd say to your vendor, like, mate, let's just pass this 100%. In. I know we've got 3 or 4 in the wings. They might need to sell their place or have a finance clause or whatever it might be, 100%. And we can get you more coin. So yeah, you're right. It's not always a true reflection of the cash market. It might be.
Yeah, like that post-COVID market, it was like, that was where you would very comfortably be able to assess market value for property on auction day because there was enough competition to find that number. But it's a matter of adjusting as agents when the market changes, recognising when there is a shift in the market, and also acknowledging that every property experiences the market a bit differently. There's some properties still, like we had plenty of auctions on the weekend where we had anywhere between 5 and I think the most we had was 15 registered bidders on a property. Then there's ones where we've got 1.
Yeah.
Everyone's experience in the market is different. The market's specific to the property. If you don't have a high volume of interest in the property, well, then you know that if someone wants to make an offer before the auction, it probably makes sense to take it.
Yep. And that's all experience, isn't it? After doing this so many times, you can counsel your vendor and go, mate, this is pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen all this before, and I reckon that's probably a goer.
Yeah, and it's one of the conversations we now have on almost day one is start thinking about what you would do if someone made you an offer to purchase the property in the next couple of days. I'm not saying that will happen, but you want your vendor to start thinking about value early, because if that right offer comes in and they're not expecting to be mentally making a decision for another 3 or 4 weeks, then you're putting them in a very difficult situation, and that's not what we should be doing.
Yes.
We want to start promoting thinking around value where they would and wouldn't sell the property very early in the campaign, just in case that is the decision that they need to make.
Yeah, and that just comes back down to that trust piece, doesn't it? Instead of blindsiding them at the 11th hour, it's like, hey, we've been talking about this for weeks.
Yeah.
Like, this is where the market's at. This is where it's at.
Yeah.
Helping them navigate through it in a matter where they feel comfortable.
Yeah. And it's a collaborative thing. The agent and vendor experience and relationship is a collaboration. You are both trying to solve the same problem together, and you need to work together. If you've got a relationship with your vendor, which is combative, it's competitive, if you feel like there's a low level of trust, if you feel like you're putting them through some factory type production line process, then they may make a decision to sell the property, but they won't have enjoyed the experience. And I think your chances of retaining a long-term relationship with those people is pretty low. And I think we've got to look, if you're going to be in this industry for a long period of time, you want to make sure that you've got clients for life.
Mate, that translates not only in your world, it also translates perfectly on our side of the fence too.
Yeah.
We've got repeat clients from 8 years ago that just come back because they trust us and they know we'll do a good job.
Yeah.
Versus your conveyor belt model where it's like very transactional. You don't even know the name of the person because there's not one. There's like 8 different people. You never get a file handler for continuity.
And not as an advertorial, particularly when you're charging me $3 for your water. But
it's free. It's free.
But I refer 100% to either personally I will use you myself, or 100% of the people that I engage I will use you. But because I know there's a high quality of service, and they or I can pick up the phone at any time, and that is what is missing. Cheap conveyancing is you get what you pay for.
Mate, I wish more people. You've lived through it, right? You've seen it. You've seen the disasters.
And I can't think of a time where I haven't had to pick up the phone in that process. Anyhow, I don't want to go on about that because it does feel a bit sort of advertorial, but I can't.
Well, let's spend a minute on it because it is part of raising the bar. And this is my passion point. Is that this is the pain that our team feels on a daily basis, and I guess to an extent you'd feel it on your side.
I just think you've got to surround yourself now in real estate with high quality professionals who will help you problem solve. And again, they are a part of the team that you bring to your client's experience. And if you need your conveyancer, your solicitor, it's nice to know you can pick up the phone.
Yeah, and get the help.
I've picked up the phone. I shouldn't say this because people will be ringing you all hours of the night, but I have picked up the phone out of hours too, and I have only when I've had a response. But because you know what, at that time where you feel like you've got a mini crisis on your hands, to my seller, that's their whole, that is the most important thing that is happening in their life at the moment. And we need to get them some advice or an understanding of what the real situation is. So, you know, and it's the same with photography and the marketing you use. Like we just
Your
need
team
to,
that you've assembled.
100%.
And
yeah.
isn't that more important than getting $50 or $100 as a kickback? Like, surely.
I mean,
This is my whole conversation I have. Like, yes, you've earned the ability through building a relationship with us to go,
Yeah.
you're sitting with your vendor, go, look, I'm just going to call Empire real quick and just make sure we're all, you know, I just want to clarify this.
Yeah.
That's the relationship.
Yeah.
It's not a transactional thing going, oh, I get $100 every deal. That's not important.
And I don't want to make myself unpopular but you're just looking for money in the wrong places if that's what you're trying to do. And we spend our lives trying to put forward a good fee model in this business that works for everybody and that we feel is fair, but we've got to offer people value. And if we're trying to do that and also trying to pick up $50 out of something, it's like, it's just, no, that's not good. Just put forward a good fee proposition to your client. And with that, you will bring your team, and your team involves these people that will help them. And you hope you don't need them in any meaningful way. Hopefully it is a fairly process-driven experience, but if you do, you've got to have the right people in.
Mate, it's just short-sighted. I think those people, they probably, maybe they don't have the experience, or maybe they have a different value alignment, because at the end of the day, it's a reflection on Peter Burgin. It's a reflection on Ray White Group. It's a reflection when you refer someone, be it me, your building and pest guy, your broker, whoever, the floor plan guy, that all reflects on you, because these people are trusting you.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like, I don't have to explain it to you. You've lived and breathed it for a lot longer than I've been a professional in the industry. But that's the way I look at it. That's how it all boils down. It's, I'm not going to refer anyone if I don't think I wouldn't send my own mother there, you know?
No, that's right.
And it's not for the $50. It's because I don't want a thing except for my mum or whoever the person I'm referring to have an amazing experience with those people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, you got to have confidence in it.
Yeah, because it reflects on you at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And you don't want those people coming back to you going, Pete, George was a rat bag. He never picked up the phone. He never responded to my emails. He ripped me off. Like, like come on. Like, there's
yeah, that's right. So it's just,
that's a different George, by the way.
No, that's right. Well, maybe it is.
Yeah, he's a bust.
But
Let's wrap up that point there, because I could talk all day about my feelings. But to the listeners out there, I think it's okay to ask a few more questions. Let's just to put a bow on this point, isn't it? Like, if your conveyancer's been referred by someone, you should really know, or your building and pest guy, or whoever the professional is, like, are you getting paid for that introduction? Because if you are, that's a big red flag to me to the trust piece, if it's not disclosed up front. But like we don't give or receive kickbacks. That's my biggest passion point in this industry, and in our branded Empire, is that we proudly don't. No. And that we are referred, like, you choose us because we do look after your clients. We do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, and that just goes for everything. And I think when you go to a listing presentation and you present yourself in front of a client, I think it's all important pieces of your overall service proposition is that you talk about what you do specifically. If you work for a brand, I work for Ray White, it's easy for me to sell the benefits of Ray White and the national, international thing. But then also locally, what do you do for your client? What is it that you bring them that other agents might not? You know, I'm happy to recommend that this is the conveyancing firm that I will use personally. I'll recommend them to my family members, and I'll recommend them to all my clients. The reason I do that is because if there is ever an issue, I can pick up the phone, the photographer, the stylist, and just let people know that you have a very well-rounded service proposition of people who absolutely are all working hard to bring you the best value so you can get the best outcome.
Yes.
And that's how you help substantiate your fee. It's not just by saying, hey, I'm Peter Burgin and I'm going to flip out my A-frame and, you know, and stand there and people will just want to pay you a great price. No, there's more than that. No? And if you're looking for a difference at the listing table, you need to have a bigger conversation, I think, around what it is that you do that is different.
Yeah, and to me, that just screams sophisticated operator. Like, I've got all my people, I've got a winning team, I've done this tens of thousands of times. And you look the part, right? Because you are the part because you've lived through it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Mate, let's go to the last point.
Okay.
I've got head of performance and what's next for Queensland auctions. So you're now chief auctioneer and head of performance at Ray White Collective. That role sounds pretty serious.
Oh,
What does head of performance look like day to day? Let's talk about that. Like, what's Peter Burgin do within the group?
So what does Peter Burgin do in terms of the auction experience throughout the collective and also for Ray White at a corporate level as well? Then obviously I bring a lot of experience to the table in that regard. We work really, really hard, and I'm very fortunate. I work with probably the best auctioneer, or one of the best auctioneers in the country, Hazley Cush as well. And I even had some people say to me, well, isn't Hazley the auctioneer? Well, we didn't look at it like that. We just thought the power of both of us being in that space was going to bring so much more to our people than it just being one of us, or one or the other. So, and it certainly worked out that way as well. We can cover more territory, be a part of more deals and so forth. So the auction side of it, but that's almost a part-time job now, like auction training. And I can tell you now, we've worked so hard at upskilling our people in that space. We've got some of the youngest and brightest people in the industry that are so competent. And one of my jobs is that if Hazley's calling in rooms, is that I'll work the floor alongside Matt Lancashire and some of our other principals. We go to help the agent through the negotiation, and they're almost pushing us away now, saying, no, I got it.
Wow.
And nothing gives you more satisfaction than seeing them just go and absolutely do a stellar job and just show a level of confidence beyond their years and years of experience. That's translates into the performance side.
So it's not just auctions. You're coaching the
Yeah.
agents in the business, in the Ray White
Yeah.
Collective group on, is it
Every part
auction
of-
specific?
Well,
or?
we have a strong auction focus, but that's a part of the elevation of performance for our people in the business. So making sure that they can handle any situation. They don't need Peter Burgin, Hazley Cush, Matt Lancashire, or anybody else. That they can go and be a part of a conversation with anybody in the market, whether they're a High Court judge or a retiree, or it doesn't matter. Just,
First home buyer, whatever.
It's absolutely, they're adaptable. So that gives me great pleasure. So there's the auction side of that. There's the daily agent side of that, where we help them formulate a plan as to how they can become a bigger part of their market, a more meaningful part of their market, where they can start building their own personal brand within and using the Ray White and the collective brand as well, talking about the value that they bring. And what we're seeing is that some very young people, or people that haven't been in the industry for very long, really doing some amazing things. And I just love seeing the future of our business. And you change as you go. Like there's this part of your working life where you sort of almost get a bit territorial, and it's like, oh no. But like now I'm just so into growth of people.
Satisfying, hey?
Oh, it's
The job
unbelievable.
satisfaction.
Yeah.
Instead of it's Peter Burgin's the man, it's like, you know what?
Yeah.
I've just trained 20 of them and
Yeah.
they're all the man. It feels
Yeah.
good, eh?
And I'm fortunate. There's just so much expertise within that group, from the principals right across the group, and also between Matt and Hazley as well. And it's like nothing I've experienced, and to be a part of that is really, really gratifying as well. And so that's, I guess, the performance side of it, and that's my full-time job.
Yes.
If I was to say that, probably to give you a representation, is that, I will spend more time in that space. But the good thing is that the auction part is a part of that as well. And it's a part of that relationship with your client. And it goes back to the fact that they go and list an auction. I might be a part of that listing presentation with them to help them get the business and also help them list the auction, and reassuring the client that not only do they get the agent who is the front person for their listing, but on the resource that's available to them right through the campaign as well.
Yes.
And, again, it's just offering more people. We talk about that conversation at the listing table with what do you bring that others may not. It's nice for them to be able to say that there's people behind the process that will help get their client a better outcome. And that's all we care about. How do we get the client the best result we possibly can? And let's really test ourselves. And probably don't want to go off topic, but look, I think we've relied too heavily on the client's marketing dollar to get buyers through their properties.
This is an interesting angle. Yeah. And doesn't that also cause, what's the word I'm looking for? That's also like an issue, an objection that has to be overcome a lot. I've been speaking to agents recently. Obviously, the market's turned a little bit now. We're recording, middle of May in 2026, and it's gone from being really hot to like clearance rates have dropped a fair bit in the last 2-3 weeks.
Yep.
And it's a bit more challenging. Things aren't moving as fast.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, I mean, your boots on the ground, and these agents are telling me, like, mate, people don't want to spend money on marketing up front. They don't want to do it. They're like, you bring me an offer. It's like, well, how can I bring you an offer if I can't market? And it's like this.
Yeah.
What do we do?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that sometimes sellers lose confidence in marketing when they do see the market change a little bit. And unless the agent is strong in their message or can give them examples of where the marketing has brought enormous value to the process as well. Because it's funny, because what happens is that we can probably all bring buyers, and I guess at Rate White we've got Nurture Cloud and we've got a strong collaboration without getting into all that stuff. We do feel like we've got the best source of buyers in the industry. Those buyers independently will get you so far, but if you can put them in competition with buyers that might come off the real estate, that's where you just know from a client's point of view is that if you do both, you're just reassuring yourself that you're going to get the best outcome.
The right eyeballs. There'll be more eyeballs on it.
As opposed just to relying on one of those. If you don't have some of the resources that we've got, if you just use the client's marketing dollar in itself without doing the work to try and get buyers through, then, you know...
Comes back to your point before.
Yeah, so...
You've got to do the work.
100%. And
it doesn't matter what car you're rolling in or what suit you're wearing, you've still got to do the work.
We've got to do work, and we've got to get more people through properties too. And our clients expect this of us. I think that they have probably let us off the hook over the years, but they expect us to, I guess, add more value to the process in terms of buyer intelligence than what we probably have over the years. So, anyhow, I think that's the part of you talk about raising the bar, like what can we do more of and do better is that bring more buyers to the table and use them in conjunction with the ones that are coming off the major portals. Then that's how we give the client ultimate value.
And that's ultimately your job in the whole, in this whole piece of this property journey.
Yeah.
That's your primary role, isn't it?
100%.
Yeah, it's getting more eyes on it and
100%.
then getting the best outcome for your client.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mate, on that note, we're nearly there.
Yeah,
Got
okay.
two more quick things for you.
Yep.
One is a question I started asking recently. It's what does raising the bar mean to you? Mate, you've been in the industry a long time. You've helped a lot of people. Look,
I think it's just an evolution of, I think the market we need to take ourselves seriously. And it's not to say that we haven't, but I think we just need to understand what it is that we do and where we fit in and what value we can bring. For me, raising the bar is always trying to become a better person. It's always trying to work harder or trying to offer people more value and bring more to the table. And you always want to be able to lie in bed at night and go, you know what, have I been good value and easy to deal with and trustworthy and all those sorts of things. I just think we just got to keep evolving in this space and embracing technology and not dismissing. And I think sometimes we get too dismissive of something because people will be dismissive of auction because they've never really auctioned before. People will be dismissive of a facade with a price or without a price because they haven't really done it. And it's
they're in
like,
that camp.
Yeah, it's just like, don't have preconceived ideas about what does and doesn't work, and none of us should. When if auctions stopped working tomorrow, and we know they're not going to, but look, if
you're listening, we just knocked on wood, by the way.
I would have to accept that I needed to change the way I thought about auctions.
Yes.
And I would, and you would adapt. So we just need to keep adapting no matter what the market throws at us. I don't think we need to get too worried about all of the things that are happening globally, and we need to acknowledge that all that stuff exists. We need to understand what it means for our clients specifically. I think we also just need to become better people who are better at their jobs and look at all this whole technology thing that's coming into our world. And it's harder for a bloke like me because I look at technology and sometimes you almost think it's too hard, but I'm very fortunate where I work alongside some really smart people who are handling the process or getting an understanding of what is actually going to bring real value to people, not smoke and mirrors. And they're going through that process. They will deliver to our agents something that is easy to use, that offers our clients value. And I guess we just got to keep embracing that stuff.
Yeah, like AI, for example, right?
Yeah.
It's continual evolution.
Yeah.
The theme I'm hearing from you with your what does raising the bar mean, it sounds like two things. continual evolution and improvement.
Yeah.
And the second piece that is resonating with me, what you said, is hanging your hat on the hook at the end of the day and going, I'm doing good work.
Yeah.
You sleep well at night.
Well, absolutely. And don't ever feel that you're entitled to anything. Like, time in the market means nothing. You're only as good as your next transaction. There's all variations of that saying.
I say we're only as good as our last deal. Like, we've been looking after Peter Burgin, we've been looking after Ray White Collective for years, and all of a sudden we start being hopeless.
Absolutely.
You can't rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
That's the term, I believe.
Yeah.
And, you know, okay, that's not going to be enough if your deals start falling over, mate. You're like, George, what the heck?
Absolutely. And I think we've just got to get better at communicating with people, sharing what it is that people need to know so they can make more informed decisions when they're selling their property. It doesn't need to be a combative relationship. Sometimes it's not what they want to hear, but you need to be able to deliver that in a way where you've got credibility, you've got information that supports what you're saying, not just I'm sending a feedback report and I'll wait for them to ring me and blow up. No, you got to go and front foot it, go and talk to them, treat them like humans and help them understand where the value of their property sits. The most common words I use with my clients is that I will support whatever decision you want to make, but I need to be able to share some information with you which might not necessarily make you happy. And it's information we didn't have on day one, but we've now got. So, and you know what, most people get it. And I will support whatever decision they want to make. They sit there and tell me that they won't accept the market value and they're going to stay in the property for 3 years. I don't want to do that. I don't want to push people into doing anything.
Mate, relationship trusts.
Yeah.
That theme's come up again. And I've spoken about this on past episodes when my auction was being called, the one I was selling. Cos Comino from LJ Hooker Sunnybank Hills did it for me.
Yep.
And he sat me down and he said, Georgie, if you're not happy with this result, do not sell the house.
Yeah.
And I was like, but then he won't get paid. He goes, I know, I won't get paid. That's okay. He goes, if you are not happy, we can negotiate after. There's lots of other options. There's different campaigns. And all that commission breath, it was never a thing with him.
No.
And the amount of trust, man, I just think Cos is the man. Because I never once felt like he just wanted my money. He didn't. He was like, mate, I want to do what's best for George Sourris in this situation.
Yeah. And I think it's funny. Like, it's for people in this business who have that approach. I just feel like the money always comes. The financial reward will be there, and like, go out there and just treat people well, and they'll get it. They'll understand. They'll very quickly work out that you have their interests at heart. You'll become someone that they want to deal with. And I think that's all we can all do, is just become easy to deal with. You know?
Wouldn't that be nice, mate?
Yeah.
We've had a lot of, I don't know if it's been since seller's disclosure or just, I don't know, the weather, but people have been a bit mad lately, and we think people have been irrationally like upset and wanting things faster. And we sit down as a group and go, what's going on? Because we're always trying to do the very best we can, and we always set realistic expectations. Yeah. And it's been a bit of a challenge, but I guess that's what these conversations are for, right? To try and spread awareness that doing better as an industry.
Yeah, that's right. But again, that's having good relationships with the people that you work with. If you're doing seller's disclosure notices for people, I guess if they're people you've got a long-standing working relationship, they'll understand if there's a challenge at your end, and you'll understand if there's a challenge at their end, and like, it works, you know.
It's funny you
like,
say that. It's the ones
each other up.
the ones that we've worked with for years that trust us, that refer their clients to us. Yeah, they don't have a problem. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. It's always the ones that we've never even heard of them, and they're ringing up, blowing up, yelling, and it's like, man, whoa. Like, we have everything transparently on the website, the pricing, the timeframes, the expectations. Like, let's just chill out a bit and work through it.
And I think it's funny, like when the seller's disclosure notice came out, it was sort of like everyone. There was different companies who that is what they are geared up to do. And it's a new process. They could not meet people's expectations. It was
a challenging time for them.
Yeah, and everyone's blowing up and blaming the company, but it's actually the process. We all inherited a process that was probably imperfect, probably still is imperfect. And I think we can all work together to try and help navigate our way through it. And if we all have the right voice around it, then I'm sure through people like Antonio at the REIQ, that they will help become a greater voice to help make the necessary changes that make it easier for everyone.
She'll advocate for a better solution from the real estate side and even our side. Yeah, and mate, she's exceptional.
I think sometimes you've got to put the pistols back in the holster and not try and shoot each other, and just like, okay,
let's collaborate.
Let's get ourselves through this, and there's a few more things coming with AML, and geez, isn't that just
next month?
Yeah, isn't that just
end of next month, mate. We've got not much time left.
Remind you of how the industry has changed, certainly, and we can all have stories of when I was a boy, but And like that's again, the professional relationships are paramount here. So yeah.
If you're a money launderer or a potential terrorist, so AML is anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism funding, you are on borrowed time, because as of the 1st of July 2026, agents will have to check, lawyers will have to check. We're doing stringent checks so that we report to AUSTRAC for any potential flags on money laundering. It's bringing Australia up to speed with the rest of the modern world.
Yep.
We're a bit behind. So yeah, it's a necessary part of our job. It's going to make a bit more red tape, a bit more work, but it's if you're a good guy, nothing bad will happen. Just have to, do an identity check and ask a few questions.
Yep.
And if you're a bad guy, watch out.
Yeah, you might want to
else.
quickly buy or sell something before it kicks in. So
Get out of Australia.
yeah.
On that note, Pete, one more question and we're finished. It's called the Golden Nugget.
All right. Okay.
Now, the Golden Nugget is one piece of advice Peter Burgin wants to give to the world at large, to the listeners. I know you've already given a lot of advice. You can have a sec to think. It doesn't even have to be auction or real estate related. It's just to the audience out there, what's one golden nugget of advice just to put a bow on this and put it to bed that you'd like to give the people?
Look, I think the one thing I would say is surround yourself with good people, people that you can trust, people that add value to what you're doing and therefore ultimately adding value to what your client does. Think about the relationships, play the long game, and you'll be right. And just obviously work hard. But other than that, enjoy life as well. Don't burn yourself out and become a lunatic. Just there's got to be.
It's a hard balancing act, isn't it?
Yeah, just try and get something out of life other than. I feel like some old man who's trying to offer wisdom, but
mate, you are a man. Let's not go with old. You are a man offering decades of wisdom. Burnout's a real thing in our industry. Not many agents and solicitors last a whole career.
No.
Yeah, mate, it's valuable words.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
On that note, mate, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you having me here.
And maybe you'll be sitting in this chair in a couple of years and it's a whole different world. Who knows? But mate, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, for the person who watches this, tell your friends.